all of us would be in a habit of investing in these mutual funds and bunch of other instruments where commissions or crazy commissions are charged. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So let me start today's video by talking about two very interesting stories. So story one is about a person called as Ronald Reed. And he was a janitor in the US, and by the time he retired, he was able to save $8 million, which were donated to non-profits and bunch of other foundations, and he was able to do a lot of good. Interesting part was that he was a janitor, he worked on minimum wages, but throughout his life, he built good habits in terms of investing, saving, he picked stocks also, he invested in index funds also, and net, he became like a very talked about point even in the book called as Psychology of Money, and different media houses also covered his story, talking about that how sensible investing could make someone rich. Story 2 is completely opposite. So it is about a person called as Jesse Livermore. So he was a trader who made crazy amount of money during the Great Depression time. So he shorted the market, which simply meant that he was betting on the market to fall, and then Great Depression came and he made insane amount of money. In fact, in today's terms, he would have made a few $billion, not million, $billion, which is absolutely insane that he made so much money. And despite making so much money, within the next few years, he committed suicide because he lost a lot of money trading. Now, the reason why I'm telling you these two stories is fairly simple, because when I look around, when I read on social media, when I get comments from all of you, there is massive FOMO that is there, that we need to become millionaires by 20s, 30s, by our 5th birthday and all that, right? So there is a lot of FOMO that is going around. There is a race that is going around. People are getting mentally exhausted, jaded, and they don't know why they are running. Now, on this video, I'm going to do three things. One, we are going to talk about that how much money do you truly need? This is a very difficult question, but I'll try my level best in terms of answering it, and I will tell you a simple rule. Second key thing, what are some of the major drivers or key inflection points that you need to consider that will allow you to plan how much to save, invest, and other financial planning. Third and finally, we will talk about some of the major milestones that you need to achieve in your 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s. So it's going to be a super interesting, important video. So if you can get out even 3 or 4 good points out of this, I think this video would have served its purpose. So let us get the discussion started. Also a very quick shout out to our sponsors for today, which is Jupiter. It's a neo banking app. It's a wonderful app that allows you to plan, invest and save your money better. They have a pots feature that allow you to invest money as per your goals and aspirations. So do check it out. Do check the links in the description box. So just to kick things off, let me answer the most important question, that how much money do you need to be happy in life? Okay, so I am not a spiritual guru and I don't know the answer. I'm being very, very upfront with you, but I can brainstorm with you and we can together come up with a reasonable answer here by using some assumptions and data. Okay, so let us assume it this way, that you somehow end up with 2 crore rupee. How do you get there? That's a separate thing, separate discussion altogether, but just a thought experiment that you have 2 crore rupee, right? Second step, very, very mota math, that if you can grow this money at a rule of 4% plus inflation, right? For example, in India right now, the inflation is roughly 7-8%. And if you can grow your money at 4%, then in total, you want to grow that corpus at 12%. This is not super complicated to do. Why? Because the last 20-year Nifty 50 returns have been 12.2%. So this is achievable. What will then happen is then you get a systematic withdrawal that you can make. So systematic withdrawal simply means that, hey, if your bank account is at 1 crore, what percentage of it can you withdraw? So if you apply a systematic withdrawal plan of 4%, then what are the numbers that we will get? So very quick math there, the 2 crores. Now, if you can grow it at 12%, then by end of year 1, how much you are making? Then you are roughly making 2.24 crores. And if you withdraw 4% money as a systematic withdrawal plan, then at the end of year 1, you get to withdraw how much? 0.04 into 2.24. So it will come out to be roughly 9 lakh rupees. So this is what mota or broad math tells us. Now, only you would know the answer, that do you feel that this 9 lakh rupees as per your current lifestyle, is it sensible for you or not? If you think that, you know what, 9 lakh, not that great, I would probably need to spend more money every year, then what do you need to do? You need to work here and increase this corpus more. If you feel that, you know what, I can survive with 4.5 lakh rupees also, or 2 lakh rupees also, then probably you don't need this big a corpus. Yes, I'm not factoring in things like taxes, etc. But I factored in inflation. So this becomes like a very good number to have. But if I have to give you some data or some bullet points that you can aspire to achieve, if you are able to build a portfolio between 2 to 3 crores, it will give you a decent life. You can undertake moderate amount of expenses. Moderate, everyone's definition would be different. If you are able to build a portfolio of 5 crores, you can undertake a lot of expenses. For example, traveling 1 month a year, not worrying about money. So just to give you some numbers, if you have built a portfolio between 2 to 3 crores, you can live a decent life. If you have doubled that portfolio almost, and you can continue to do this, grow your money at 4% plus inflation rate, which is not super complicated, you get to approximately 4 to 5 crores portfolio. That gives you somewhat of a semi-rich life going forward. So those are the numbers that you can aim to achieve. But yes, the eventual answer literally depends from person to person. No one can tell you how much money is enough. But I hope these numbers give you a little bit of sense that how much you should be aspiring for. So, okay, so now let us move on to slightly more quantifiable data, and I will talk about 3 key factors that are going to impact this portfolio that you are looking to create. Should it be 2 crores? Should it be 5 crores? Should it be 10 crores? So very quick discussion there. So the first key thing that is going to impact your portfolio is where you are living and working. And here there are 2 significant decision points that you need to understand. So first is that if you're working in India versus abroad, which is better according to me, if you go abroad and work, the opportunities to earn and save are much better. There are multiple reasons. I have done a separate video on that. You can go and look at it, but I will recap a high level summary here by giving you the example of working at McKinsey in Texas. So let's say that you go to the US, complete your MBA, start working at a top tier consulting firm like McKinsey. Then traditionally speaking, you will make a salary of roughly 177,000 US dollars without the bonuses. And we are assuming that whatever debt you undertook to complete your MBA, that gets wiped out because you are getting bonuses every year if you are working at a good job. So you are making a salary of 177,000 US dollars. You are paying like roughly 40% tax. And the cost of living in Texas is roughly 3,500 US dollars for a family of 4. So let's assume it to be 4,000 also. Then also on every year basis, you will end up saving in INR terms roughly 46 lakhs. Which is huge saving amount. You do it for 4-5 years and then you reach where? You reach the first point that we were talking, that you are able to create a very big portfolio with almost half the decade worth of work. And here I'm assuming that there is no salary inflation also happening, right? Which is not correct because of course in 5 years your salary can almost double also. So you will end up with a fairly big portfolio if you are going abroad and if you are able to get a very good job. So if you are in your 20s, my number 1 tip for you is that, hey, try to figure out a great job. It's great that you are looking to build something, entrepreneurial abilities, skill, all that is great. But one of the key things that will trigger your portfolio and that will trigger in terms of getting financially secure is that get an awesome job. If you are able to do it, it gives you massive head start in life. Now, many of you might say that, Akshat, okay, fine, this India versus abroad debate makes sense. But what about if I don't want to go abroad? Okay, then the second layer of thinking will help you out. Think between metros versus non-metros. So just to share some data points with you, if you are living and working in Mumbai, you are almost paying 4x the amount then you might be paying in a city like Indore. Similarly, if you are living and working in Delhi, then you might be paying almost 2x if you were to work in a city like Jaipur. So these are basic decision points. Yes, I understand that when you are young, you get more opportunities to work in metros. I'm not asking you to shift right away, but at least start putting these into your decision factors because it impacts your overall portfolio size that we were speaking on point 1. I'd made a separate video on this topic where I've analyzed this in more detail. So please go and watch it. It will give you a roadmap as to how you can do that mapping as to when to shift to a tier 2 city, if at all. But to cut the long story short, where you are living and where you are earning, it creates a lot of impact. If you get to go abroad and pursue a job, even if it is an average job, not an excellent job, still the opportunities to save and earn is much better in US dollar, Australian dollar, Singapore dollar terms. Do it for a few years, create your portfolio. There are absolutely zero opportunities that you are missing, and it definitely expedites your financial independence. So the word of the day today is expedite. So let me know what does that. Also, if you are just living in India and that is your long-term plan, then think about which tier 2 cities you can shift to, because it can again impact your core portfolio by a lot. Now, the second key thing that is going to definitely impact all of us in terms of creating that initial portfolio is What is our lifestyle and philosophy towards life? So let me pick an example and show you and prove the point that when you are spending 100 rupees, it is not just 100 rupees that you are spending much more. So let us pick the example of owning a car. And this article came in one of the leading dailies in India, and it talked about the fact that if you are buying a car for, let's say, 15 lakh rupees, then you need to earn roughly 21.42 lakh rupees if you are in that 30% tax slab. So just consider the difference between 21.42 and 15 lakhs. Then again, if you're operating that car for roughly 1 lakh kilometer, so you drive that car for roughly 1 lakh kilometer, then assuming a basic mileage, you might end up spending approximately 11 lakh rupees. So the point that I'm trying to make is that many a times we think that, hey, we are just spending like 100 rupees or 200 rupees. That 100 rupee is after tax income that you're getting. The direct taxes are the income tax that you're paying. And then you also pay GST over it and bunch of other cess and whatnot, right? So India is a very high tax oriented country. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat in the comment section when I say such things, genuinely. But on the return on our taxes, we are getting very low returns. And India, therefore, is a very poor return on tax giving country, primarily because our direct tax base is only very small to begin with. There are less than 5% people in India who pay direct income tax, which is like absolutely crazy. And I hope that government looks into it. But the important key takeaway for you is twofold. Number one, please don't consider spending 100 rupees as spending 100 rupees. You are at least spending 120, 130 rupees, very, very sensibly put. Second key point, whenever you decide to undertake any kind of lifestyle inflation, there are a bunch of costs associated with it. So think long and hard about the things that you truly need versus not. If you are getting into that consumeristic habits, this can be a very important checkpoint, and you can ask yourself before spending 500, 600 rupees that do I really need to do it? Because it looks 500, but it is much, much more than that. And it again impacts your core portfolio. Now, the third key point that is going to impact your core portfolio a lot is the rate at which you can grow your portfolio. For example, many a time we think that, you know what, there is hardly any difference in terms of paying like 0.3% commission on a mutual fund vis-a-vis paying like 1% commission. So let me walk you through an example, very, very interesting example, because people often just simply talk about the time horizon part of it. That, hey, if you would have started investing when you were 10, you would have become like a multi-millionaire right now, and you would be raking in extreme cash by buying like LIC, IPO and whatnot. So no, that is just half the equation. Other half people don't even talk about. So let me show that to you by giving you some data points here. So if you consider a monthly investment of 10,000 rupee and you are able to grow it at roughly 12% rate for a time period of 30 years, then the total value of your corpus comes out to be 3.52 crores. So this does not look unachievable. But look at the magic if I'm changing this 12 to roughly 14-15%. So if we are bumping up from 12% to 15%, our core portfolio almost doubles. It becomes roughly 7 crores. So that is the power of a difference between 12% return and 15% return. So going back to that Ronald Reid story, he invested both in index fund and direct stocks also. He made crazy amount of money through direct stocks. So that is the reason why he was able to hit that $8 million corpus. So please be very, very considerate what type of mutual funds, etc. that you are buying, because almost all of us would be in a habit of investing in these mutual funds and bunch of other instruments where commissions or crazy commissions are charged. So don't just simply say कि क्या फर्क पड़ता है with 0.5% commission. A lot of impact gets created on your core portfolio. Now let me talk about the most important aspect of this video, which is around milestone by ages that you need to achieve. That what are some of the key things that you need to achieve by 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s and so on. So according to me, there are 7 major milestones in an Indian's life. Now, of course, we all can agree, disagree with these, but these would be 7 of my top milestones. But before I jump into this, let me give a very quick commentary on why you should not be doing goal-based investing, but rather do milestone-based planning. Because goal-based investing just orients you in a very negative way. It creates a negative feedback system. So let me demonstrate that by using an example. So let's say that you're saving for an iPhone. The moment you purchase an iPhone, you feel very happy and it prompts you that, hey, next time I'm going to save harder and I'm going to buy the next big thing. So then you buy an Apple laptop, then you buy some third thing, then fourth thing. So you are orienting yourself and creating a reward structure of consuming more and more. So that is incorrect. You should rather go by milestone. Yes, it makes sense to do goal-based planning, but replace that word goals with major milestones. And here are 7 major milestones that I would say. So one is education, that many of us incur a lot of expenses in terms of our education. So we need to have some fund that becomes a major milestone. Marriage is another milestone for many people. Try to not to spend crazy amount of money in marriages. At least try to convince your parents. But if not possible, this becomes like a major financial milestone. Then kids education. If you are planning to have kids, there will be a lot of expenses associated with it, and you need to do some milestone based planning. Then parents' finances, because for many of us, our parents might be depending on us. So this becomes another important point. We should be debt free at some stage. This is a logical standpoint. Finally, we need to plan for retirement, and also we need to enjoy life every once in a while, or try to do it majority of the time. So this can be termed as fun money, right? So these are 7 major milestones that we need to be considerate of when we are undertaking our corpus building. And let me now divide these by age. There will be overlap between different ages. For example, you should prepare for your retirement both in your 40s and 50s, and maybe even in 30s. You might need to save quite aggressively for your kids both in 30s and 40s. So there will be overlaps, but let me walk you through 3 key milestones as per different ages. So if I'm in my 20s, these are the 3 things that I'll focus the most on. Number 1, I will focus on my health. In fact, health is a priority across all age groups, but especially in 20s, if you cultivate the right habits on focusing on your health, not having too much alcohol, not partying, not having drugs, all that stuff, it is very important. So focus on your health. 20s is the time to build right habits. If you're not building right habits, then yeah, you are doing yourself a disservice. That is what I would say. Second, or equally important point is that you need to focus on your skills. I see a lot of people in their 20s that, hey Akshat, I'm like 21. I feel depressed in life because I'm not a millionaire. Grow up, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. Please don't worry too much about it. Please focus on your health. People love to give the example of Warren Buffett that, hey, Warren Buffett has invested when he was like 11 years old. He bought his first share and he has been buying shares ever since. Therefore, he is now a multi-billionaire. No. Yes, compounding helped him probably like 20%, but 80% was his skills. He was a good stock picker. That is the reason why he is considered as a legend. He is such a legend that his own company is unable to replace him even now. So that is how strong his skill set was. He invested time learning early about stock picking. People always miss understanding that simple fact that skill compounding gives much better return compared to money compounding. I am saying something very contradictory here compared to many finance YouTubers, but this is what I have also observed and I'm observing in my own life. So this is very, very important. And third and final is that please take investing as a habit. So it might be the fact that right now you're 21, you are making, let's say, a salary of 20,000 and you're not able to save much. Probably you are able to save 1,000 rupees. Save and invest. It's not the end of the world. The important point is that you are picking the habit of investing as early as you can and you are building a system of investing. That is the most important point. 20s is a time to build great habits. Now in 30s, and I'm in my 30s, I'm 34. So this applies to me that in 30s, if I have to think of 3 things that absolutely needs to get done, first and foremost, an emergency fund should be there. This should be approximately 6 to 12 times of your current monthly income. Very, very important, because for any unforeseen circumstances, if you get out of job, if you lose your job, or if you have a minor accident, all that stuff, this emergency fund is very useful. So this needs to be created. This is an absolute must. Second key thing, that your parents' finance needs to be sorted. You must be very clear as to how much you might have to spend on your parents in case they are not working and if they need your support. So be very, very clear about it, because the needs here go up. They might have medical bills, medicine bills, etc. So please be considerate about that. Third and finally, you need to start saving for kids. If you have a kid, or if you're planning on having a kid, now would be the time where you can't miss all these critical things. So these are must do things. On top of this, there are some key mistakes that you must avoid. First and foremost, please don't increase your obligations. For example, taking an EMI as a home loan is just simply increasing your obligation. In 30s, you already have too many obligations. And if you keep on compounding more and more obligations that, next month SBI ko loan bharna hai and all that stuff, yeah, please don't do it. It's not worth it. This applies from a time-based perspective also. For example, start learning to say no to many opportunities that might not fit with your life. This is the time where you need to start finding balance in your life. Be very clear about the things that you want versus not. And that is hopefully going to set a very strong foundation for you going forward. So in 40s, according to me, these are the 3 key obligations that we must be very considerate of, or 3 key milestones for which we should dedicate more of our money. So one is kids education. This becomes critical. There is just no other way. You have to get this obligation done, and this is where major expenses start to kick in. For example, your kid might go to college or they might go and study abroad. So yeah, huge expense. Second, you have obligation towards yourself that you need to plan for your retirement, because if you just keep on living day to day and if you're not budgeting anything for your retirement planning at this stage, you might struggle really badly. So certain amount of your money should definitely go to retirement planning. Third and finally, you must explore career flexibility. This is extremely important, critical. I know that many of us would not have this luxury, but if possible, think about career flexibility. And if you're not happy with your job, please don't continue to work in a toxic work culture. Look for areas where you can really optimize and squeeze in every bit of money if you're not financially free at this juncture. I'm not picking an extensive conversation here, and by no means this is like a complete course or guide on how to be free in 40s. Probably I'll make a separate video on this topic, but to cut the long story short, these three things become extremely important, and this is based on my conversation with a lot of people in 40s. These are the key things that they are struggling with, or I have seen them struggle with. Now in 50s, your number one priority becomes sorting out your retirement. This is the number one key thing. You might have heard of a rule called as 50-30-20, that hey, 50% should go to your needs, 30% should go to your wants, 20% should go to investing. No, that's a pretty much pointless rule. Your 50-30-20 definition keeps on changing with what specific stage of life you are at. If you are in your 50s, you might need to invest 50% of your income or even 60-70% of your income. If you are in your 20s, then probably it's okay not even to save and invest 5% of your money if you're not making enough money. In 20s, your skill set become critical. Please develop skill sets. Keep on learning throughout this entire spectrum. No one is stopping you, but this is especially applicable in your 20s. Along the way, along this entire horizon, you need to take care of your health. That is definitely the number one thing. Money comes second, health comes first. So please take care of your health. If you are working in toxic culture, please try to get out of it. Even if you have to take a little bit of financial hit, it is just not worth it to have like millions of dollars if you can't enjoy that money wholeheartedly by having a good health. Now you'll say that Akshat, you might have made this a little bit complex for us. So what are like some guiding lights that you will give us, or some golden rules that you can talk about? So, okay. So number one golden rule that I will give you is that try to hit 70% saving mark. Whether you do it in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, it does not matter. All you need to do is that for 1 decade in your career, it can happen anytime, you need to save 70% of your monthly income. Then you can theoretically retire and not inflate your lifestyle. So I hope, please rewind this part and watch it again. This is a golden rule. Please write it down and stick it on a wall. Super important. Second key golden rule that I will tell you is that please spend 10% of your money just for fun, right? For example, I enjoy on really expensive food. I am usually a very frugal person, but when it comes to spending on food, I eat really expensive food. I enjoy going to good restaurants because for me, that is what makes life worth living, and I enjoy eating at good places. Similarly, if you want to do paragliding in beer billing like this guy, that is completely cool. Please do it. Not a problem. Spend 10% of your money. That will keep the engine going and motivate you to make even more money. So in summary, number one, the financial planning is really difficult to do because it changes as per your age, as per your circumstances. So contextualize it. Only you would know how best to do it. Second key thing, set priorities and milestones. And I have outlined what the milestones need to be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Third and finally, try to hit 70% saving rule on your salary and be sensible, be wise, develop good habits, and hopefully you will be free. So do check the links in the description box about Jupiter. Do use the app. It's a wonderful app. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you tomorrow.